You alluded to the fact that you did serve in the military, particularly in the war in Afghanistan. And now House Republicans are saying that they're going to launch an investigation into the drawdown from that war. Is that a topic worthy of investigation in Congress?
I do not think that the people of the state of Maryland want the Republican Party to spend their time, or want Congress spending their time talking about the drawdown in Afghanistan.
Two years ago, on January the 6th, our democracy was attacked.
Bullshit.
The U.S. Capitol was breached, which had never happened before in the history of the United States of America.
But Joe Biden just said it. It's not true. I'm not shocked. Politicians say stuff that isn't true all the time.
The U.S. Capitol was breached, which had never happened before in the history of the United States.
This is not the first time lawmakers have been evacuated from the floors of the House and Senate, and it's not the first time the U.S. Capitol has fallen under attack. It was August of 1814, and the British were coming.
The U.S. Capitol was breached, which had never happened before in the history of the United States.
The British built multiple fires inside the Capitol, torched the Supreme Court, the Library of Congress, and the chambers of the House and Senate before setting fire later that night to the White House.
It had never happened before in the history of the United States of America, even during the Civil War.
Joe Biden believes he can say anything he wants.
The U.S. Capitol was breached, which had never happened before.
In 1915, several sticks of dynamite exploded in the Senate reception room when a German-born professor at Harvard set off the blast to protest World War I.
Which had never happened before.
In 1954, a group of Puerto Rican nationalists opened fire in the House chamber from an upstairs visitors gallery, injuring 5 congressmen, spraying the House floor with gunfire as they shouted, "Viva Puerto Rico!"
Which had never happened before in the history of the United States of America.
This guy is either really stupid or he lies.
Then in 1971,
at 1 minute before 1 o'clock this morning, the switchboard at the Capitol received a phone call. A man's voice said a bomb would go off in the building in half an hour. At 1:30 in the morning, it did.
Which had never happened before in the history of the United States of America.
Another bomb on the Senate side of the Capitol in 1983.
Never happened before.
In 1998, a gunman made it past a security checkpoint and fatally shot 2 guards.
A violent mob of insurrectionists assaulted law enforcement, vandalized sacred halls, hunted down elected officials, all for the purpose to attempt to overthrow the will of the people.
They lie about what happened that day, and they do it in the boldest possible ways, without shame and with maximum aggression.
These people and the people representing those who couldn't be here because they gave their lives for this is incredibly consequential. And that's not political talk, that's historical fact.
That's historical fact, says Joe Biden, as he manufactures history, as he tells lies. They've been doing this, telling these same lies since the very first day, January 6th, 2021.
I'm bestowing the Presidential Citizens Medal. It recognizes, quote, citizens of the United States of America who have performed exemplary deeds of service for their country or their fellow citizens, end of quote.
No, he's a liar. He lies about everything. I don't want to say that, but he's a corrupt politician.
As Congressman Bennie Thompson said, a man of immense character and honor himself. As Congressman Bennie Thompson said, a man of immense character and honor himself.
Are you stupid or something?
Hello, my name is Bennie Thompson, and I proudly represent the 2nd Congressional District of Mississippi.
Mississippi Congressman Bennie Thompson, chair of the House Homeland Security Committee and leader of the Select Committee to investigate January 6th.
The NAACP says they don't think Donald Trump will gain any more minority votes with his latest trip to Mississippi.
If David Duke decides that he's inspired by your campaign and you don't disavow that,
I totally disavow David Duke.
if the head of the Ku Klux Klan in Virginia endorses your candidacy and you don't disavow that,
Totally disavow the Ku Klux Klan.
and you don't disavow that, then something's wrong with you as a person.
A man of immense character and honor himself.
Mississippi Congressman Bennie Thompson will be a no-show for Donald Trump's inauguration. The longtime Democratic lawmaker is boycotting President-elect Trump's swearing-in ceremony.
Just moments ago, Speaker Pelosi announcing that Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger will be joining the committee. Your reaction to that?
Independent voice to this select committee is always welcome.
You with Representative Adam Kinzinger. What do you make of our commander-in-chief today?
I mean, unfit for office.
Independent voice is always welcome.
Should we plan on hearing about more Republicans joining the select committee chosen by Speaker Pelosi?
Our scope of the committee, we're tasked with looking to make sure that we find all the facts and circumstances around it.
Facts and circumstances around it.
The Democrat majority on the House Committee on January 6th has abolished cross-examination and confrontation. They rigged the committee, put only people who support their narrative on it, and have not asked one hard question of a single witness. Not one hard question, not one confrontation, not one cross-examination, not one bit of evidence.
Our scope of the committee, find all the facts and circumstances around it.
Not one bit of evidence that contradicted their narrative. Don't trust them.
If you don't have Republicans who are on the select committee appointed by Republican leadership, are you worried about the questions of your perceived legitimacy of not only the hearings, but the conclusions you come out with?
Demand confrontation. Demand that the other side be presented.
Once you see how we conduct the investigation, the scope and the depth that we will participate in that investigation, I'm convinced the public will understand it.
How can I tell you don't trust them? Because you haven't heard the other side. You haven't heard any of these witnesses subjected to the truth testing mechanisms of confrontation and cross-examination.
I'm convinced that the right kind of work product that we produce will get a buy-in from the public. So I'm looking forward to it.
Don't trust them. Demand cross-examination.
At the end of a campaign, it all comes down to the numbers. The numbers tell you the winner and the loser. For the most part, the numbers don't lie. We saw the first public evidence that the Trump campaign eagerly intended to collude with Russia. We accept those results. That's what it means to respect the rule of law. We must get the truth about Russia's meddling and the full extent of the Trump's campaign complicity. And the very least we should expect from any person seeking a position of public trust is the acceptance of the will of the people, win or lose. If we continue to do nothing, we make it easy for Russia and other nefarious actors to meddle in future elections. But he betrayed the trust of the American people. He ignored the will of the voters. He lied to his supporters and the country. Russia carried out the hacking campaign in an attempt to influence the outcome of the 2016 presidential election. We'll tell the story of how Donald Trump lost an election and knew he lost an election, and as a result of his loss, decided to wage an attack on our democracy. The Trump campaign eagerly intended to collude with Russia.
A man of immense character and honor himself.
You were in the Capitol on January 6th. Your recollections of that harrowing day?
First of all, those of us who didn't have security details didn't know what was going on. We heard the shot of the lady who ultimately died trying to break in to hurt us.
Now, what that video portrayed was me and Ashley Babbitt walking side by side. We were the first ones to actually arrive at the speaker's lobby doors. And as you hear from that clip is, these people aren't violent. I actually offered this officer water. Ashley was actually joking with these same officers, Officer Yetter and the other two in the same area, minutes prior to her getting shot. So that was the initial approach video. And the actual documentation of the shooting really even tells a much larger story than that, and really seems to disprove what mainstream media and our government have created as the official narrative around Ashley Babbitt.
The lady who ultimately died trying to break in to hurt us.
Ashley was actively trying to disarm these people, trying to calm them down throughout this entire kind of confrontation with these police officers. She continuously got in between the officers and Zachary Alam, who is that agitator you see that she grabs the backpack of. She actually reaches in with her right hand, pulls Zachary back from the window as he shatters the last window pane, and punches him with her left hand. She was left-handed in a southpaw, and hits him right in the face and causes his glasses to fall. And 7 seconds later, that's actually when Michael Leroy Byrd ended up issuing a kill shot with no verbal warning.
We came very close to losing this democracy, and I want to make sure as chairman that we make sure that it never, ever happens again.
I tagged the January 6th committee. I emailed them. I showed them the evidence. And Adam Kinzinger, I actually tagged him today, and I tried to confront him about the fact that he's a sitting member on this January 6th committee.
And it's why I agreed to serve on this committee. I want to know what happened that day, but more importantly, I want all Americans to be able to trust the work this committee does and get the facts out there free of conspiracy.
Supposed to be investigating what took place on January 6th, but then he goes and donates money to Michael Byrd, the officer that shot Ashley Babbitt and killed her.
This cannot continue to be a partisan fight. And serving on this committee, I'm here to investigate January 6th, not in spite of my membership in the Republican Party, but because of it. Not to win a political fight, but to learn the facts.
An independent voice is always welcome.
Stepping into the speaker's lobby might be unlawful, but it doesn't warrant the death penalty. So we don't shoot protesters in this country unless they're an immediate threat to somebody.
So we want to honor those heroes who defended the Capitol on January 6th.
We honor a remarkable group of Americans who embodied the best before, during, and after January the 6th, 2021.
Why are you letting this happen? Why haven't you called for backup? Where is your backup? This is our damn Capitol building, and y'all are letting it get destroyed on your watch. Fuck all of you. Call for backup. Get some help down here. And if they don't want to get you fucking backup, they obviously don't give a shit about you.
We came very close to losing this democracy, and I want to make sure as chairman that we make sure that it never, ever happens again.
I have covered riots across the country. I've been in Portland, I've been in DC, everywhere you can imagine. And I've never seen police brutality like I saw that day. Is they threw the first grenade. That's really what, created the stir in the crowd.
Hey, fire! Hey, you're fire, fire! Hey, you good, you good? Hey, just listen when I'm fire! Hey, bro, that was close. Fire? No, you're good. I got that on camera. You're good. You all right? Hey, they just caught him on fire. Look at this guy's hoodie. How you feel? Oh, shit. I just got fucking... How you feel, man? Hit by a motherfucking grenade.
And then people started pushing back, and then they just kept throwing grenades deep into the back of the crowd, pushing people towards them. So really, it just stinks of one big setup. And as I've said since day one, is you don't walk into one of the most secure buildings in the country with a sitting vice president inside, members of the House, members of the Senate, unarmed, and unless you're allowed to. And that's exactly what happened, is these officers opened the doors and let people in that day.
As a result of the events on January 6th, the lives of 5 heroic officers were lost.
No police officers were killed on January 6th, period. Ashley Babbitt was killed on January 6th.
A man of immense character and honor himself.
Donald Trump ignored and disregarded the desperate pleas of his own family, even though he was the only person in the world who could call off the mob. He sent to the Capitol.
Trump said that he wanted his supporters to peacefully and patriotically make our voices heard.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Who could call off the mob. He sent to the Capitol.
What part of peacefully and patriotically don't you understand?
And he'll look at you and he'll lie.
Cameras were anxiously and desperately waiting to carry his message to the armed and violent mob, savagely beating and killing law enforcement officers.
A complete lie. Capitol police officers did not lose their lives on January 6th. They were not killed by protesters, of course. They died of other causes after January 6th, some suicides.
Today is a ceremony to honor heroes of January 6th, the late U.S. Capitol Police Officer Billy Evans.
Investigators are saying that Evans and the other officer were hit by a car. The driver rammed into them, then the barricade at a security checkpoint before jumping out of the car with a knife.
Well, they're still cordoning off the Capitol because threats by these sick insurrectionists.
The incident comes despite very tight security, nearly 3 months after supporters of then-President Trump stormed the Capitol.
What Officer Evans was killed defending the checkpoint he'd had to go through to get up to the Capitol because of these god-awful sick threats.
The Capitol police officer who died in last week's attack at the barricade didn't appear to have been stabbed, slashed, or shot.
Jill and I also met the family at the Rotunda to pay our respects, and I was honored to sign a bill awarding the Congressional Medal, Gold Medal, to those who protect the Capitol on January 6th and to honor Officers Sicknick, Evans, Liebengood, Smith.
Today from the medical examiner in Washington, Officer Brian Sicknick. He died of natural causes after suffering 2 strokes.
Brian Sicknick died of a stroke well after the January 6th protests, but that did not stop their lying or even slow them down.
To those who protect the Capitol on January 6th and to honor Officers Sicknick, Evans, Liebengood, Smith.
After striking the officers, Green jumped out with a knife and was fatally shot by Capitol Hill police. According to Green's now-deleted Facebook post, he followed the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Here's one of the posts that says the minister is here to save him and the rest of humanity.
To those who protect the Capitol on January 6th and to honor Officers Sicknick, Evans, Liebengood, Smith.
Now we are learning that friends and family are mourning the loss of another 51-year-old Capitol Police officer. Howard Liebengood reportedly took his own life. It's not clear whether his death was connected to Wednesday's events.
To honor Officers Sicknick, Evans, Liebengood, Smith.
Sir is Officer Jeffrey Smith. He was a 2nd District officer. He was one of the officers who responded to the Capitol on January the 6th. And a couple of days after that, the officer, he took his life.
9 days after January 6th, Jeff Smith took his own life. One of 4 officers who died by suicide in the 7 months after responding to the attack.
Joe Biden just awarded one of this country's highest civilian honors, the Presidential Citizens Medal, to officers working on January 6th. And that would include the officers who opened the doors of the Capitol building to the so-called insurrectionists. The officers who let them inside and then were rewarded for it by the President of the United States. What's going on here, you may wonder? Well, don't ask. You're not allowed to know what's going on here.
The impact, what happened on July the 6th had international repercussions beyond what I think any of you can fully understand.
I am your voice.
So I welcome the participation, but I think from the vantage point of the public, we have to get it right.